is the, is it called EFT?
Yes.
The tapping
Yeah.
solution. So tell us a little bit about how that came about and how that works.
Well, that is a tool that I learned many, many years ago, and it works with actually shifting how your brain is perceiving a certain situation that you've created a pattern with it of stress. So, for example, people that have phobias about things, or people that always get stressed when it's time to take an exam or to get on an airplane, or when they think of a certain emotional state, that they'll just get overly stressed by it. And if you tap on the endpoints of acupuncture meridians, it helps to deal with stress more effectively by shifting actually one part of the brain that holds that pattern. I want to use the word disinflates.
Diffuses?
Right? It diffuses, yeah. It diffuses the link of stress with that experience.
Uh-huh.
And what I found was that when I used that for myself, something that was stressful, all of a sudden I got real peaceful about it, and the charge was gone. Mm-hmm. And when I started to look at what if we applied that to people, and what if I looked at what's happening in their nervous system if they're using that regularly, what I noticed was that people were not building up stresses. So the work that I was doing with people, we could cover much more ground during the regular visits because they were doing those pieces in between their visits, that they weren't accumulating the stress. Kind of like you go to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, mm-hmm. but what do you do in between dentist mm-hmm. visits? Mm-hmm. Oh, you brush your teeth, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't brush your teeth, there's a lot more work that has to be done mm-hmm. at the dentist, mm-hmm. As things accumulate. So if I could train people to do those things in their lifestyle that stopped them from recreating patterns, then we could cover much more ground. Mm-hmm.
So let's step back for a minute and talk about kind of bigger picture philosophy in terms of being the change, helping bring our culture to a better place, helping support people in the community and in the world. What are some of the things that feel most important to you to help in our current world situation?
I think a lot of it comes down to more of just the very grassroots aspect of each individual person learning what they can do for their own life to live a better life. And mm-hmm. so that means looking at how cleanly they live, including what foods they're putting into their body, what chemicals they're exposed to, how they can diminish that. Also looking at how they deal with their emotions, and if they are getting stressed out, then they're not going to be relating to people. Their work production is going to be affected by that. So dealing with stress more effectively, getting enough sleep. Right? People just aren't getting. They're trading sleep for being on the internet. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the trend. Mm-hmm. Getting enough sleep, exercising, and it really doesn't even take much as far as exercise goes. Mm-hmm. People would be surprised at how little they have to do. They just have to do it a certain way. Mm-hmm. So there really is the ability to incorporate all of these things into someone's regular life and live a much healthier life. And if they can do those things, then they're going to relate to other people differently. And of course, I would add in there keeping the nervous system clear. Most mm-hmm. people have never even gotten their nervous system checked. Mm-hmm. People get their blood pressure checked, but what is it that controls blood pressure? Mm-hmm. What is it that controls everything that's in the blood? Mm-hmm. What is it that controls the contraction and dilation of blood vessels? Mm-hmm. It all comes to the nervous system. So I think if people add those pieces in, that's going to give them their best chance to be able to be as much as they can be in their life. Mm-hmm. And that's where my work is teaching people. It's the little decisions that we make all day long that make the greatest impact on our life. It's not the big decisions, not mm-hmm. like where you're going to live, what your job is, who you're going to marry. Those big things, people think it's all about that, but it's the 10,000 little decisions that we make over and over again all day long. So the clearer the nervous system is, the easier it is to make those changes, and then we can live more truly to ourselves mm-hmm. and express more of who we are.
Well, one thing that this kind of makes me think of, and also when I think of you, is kind of clearing out extraneous like factors and influences and stresses and kind of simplicity of environment, which makes me mm-hmm. think about the vacation mm-hmm. that I know you love to take. And I thought it'd be interesting to hear from you what you and your daughter and your friends enjoy about taking a vacation, which is pretty much the lowest impact vacation that you can take, right?
Right.
In terms of resources and the environment and even money, which is going to camp on a little island in Vermont.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for you taking that kind of vacation, and even for your nervous system and for your health?
Yeah, it's a good question. We love it. The thing I love about it is that my daughter gets to run wild with a pack of kids, which is what I grew up doing. But somehow in our modern day environment, it isn't structured the same way. So I want her to have that opportunity to be able to do that. That's a big part of it. And we go with a group of folks too. So there's the importance of just relationship and hanging out, and we get to bring the food that we want with us. So we don't have to rely on restaurants that may not actually have the quality and standards that we like. And just living outside without any electrical grid around us, and sleeping on the ground,
living in a
and
tent for 2
swimming,
weeks.
and it all is very consistent with a healthy lifestyle. And I'm not unlike other people. When I'm home, I'm always thinking, I got to clean up this, I got to organize this, I got to do this, or I've got projects I'm working on, and I'm staying up too late at night because I love these projects I'm working on. So it's a great way for me to just unplug in so many ways. And I think what I like to call the natural state of ease is something that occurs when the nervous system gets clear. We get to a point of what I call the natural state of ease. And so for some people, taking a vacation and sitting in the jacuzzi is maybe the few minutes they get in their year of what they think is that natural state of ease. And what I would like to have people consider is that the natural state of ease is a way that we would be a lot of the time, except when the tiger's chasing you. But other than that, just defaulting to the natural state of ease. So for people to look for opportunities in their life that help them to plug into that natural state of ease. And so, things like, not being on the computer for the last 3 hours before you go to bed. It's a good practice to have. And for some people, for me to help them kind of get into that, I say, look, just do an experiment and don't turn any lights on. Use candlelight.
That would be neat.
Let your body experience that rhythm of a natural cycle of the day with the natural daylight.
Winding down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes when we take walks at night, especially in the winter because it's dark at 4:30 or whatever, almost every house we go by has the flashing television lights in the main window, and it's so pervasive how people are hooked up to this mediated life. So getting to a place like Burton Island where you're just really, just back in nature is so special. Yeah. We don't have a TV, so we don't get sucked into that aspect either. But again, just people that can, if you can learn to set rhythms and rituals in your life that take up the time in a healthy way, then that's what can promote the outcomes that you would want to see from that. So we have 5 minutes left.
Oh boy.
And I did want to talk about your work into helping get the word out about how our bodies can function better without things like the flu shot or immunizations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I really believe that personal choice in healthcare is really one of the most important things in our culture that we need to preserve. And so having a personal choice about vaccinations is a big thing that's very important to me, that people get to choose that and not have that right taken away. And I also feel very strongly that we need to self-educate ourselves on the decisions we're making for our families. So in my practice, in my website, I've actually created some reports that people can look at to get them started in self-educating themselves. If you look at the thousands of years that human beings have been on the planet, right, and it's only a very short period of time that we've been using medications and vaccinations and that sort of thing. And if you look at what the research shows as far as the trending of epidemics and diseases, is that the human cycle goes epidemics run in cycles. And when we look at the major diseases that we vaccinate against, you can actually see that they were already coming down with the inclusion of sanitation and hygiene and healthier just living conditions, that those were the things, nutrition, those are the things that actually brought those diseases down to having less of a cost of life. And yet, many proponents of vaccination try to link it was the vaccination that did that when it wasn't. And we have to also look at what else is in vaccinations. There's so many harmful chemicals that are in them that are being injected straight into the bloodstream. We also have to look at the fact that, when I was growing up, there were a handful of vaccinations that were promoted. And now we just keep adding to them more and more. And we've never done any studies on the safety of that. There have never been any long-term safety studies on vaccination. If you look at what the vaccine manufacturers call a long-term safety study, it's 4 days. Then nothing happened after 4 days, so they're good. And actually, when they say it's safe, they're only comparing it to people that are vaccinated with these vaccines and people that are vaccinated with these vaccines +1. And if the outcome is the same, then they say that that new vaccine they added is just as safe as the others. But meanwhile, we are seeing that there are adverse events associated with vaccinations. So I would just encourage people to do their research themselves, really look at what the impact may be, and decide whether they are going to trade off trying to protect their child from an acute infectious illness that might have great value to that child in developing their nervous system and their immune system, versus trading it off for what may be chronic diseases that are going to be showing up in their life, either very soon, immediately after, or over time. Because we haven't done the research to show the safety studies, and there is research out there that does show that there may be problems with it.
So let me mention there's a documentary film called The Greater Good,
Greater Good,
which people could look up on the internet.
Yes.
And also, at the end of our show, your website will be on a screen. And do you have something on your website that links to immunizations and the flu shot?
Yep. If you go to Health Solutions tab and you drop down from there, you'll see there are some reports on a healthy immune system as well as the truth about vaccinations.
Great.
And actually, I'd like to put a plug in. There's a movie that's being produced now. It's called BOUGHT, B-O-U-G-H-T. And it's about how the FDA and the pharmaceutical industry are buying our children's health, and that we really have to do something about that.
Okay.
So watch for that. It's coming
All right.
out hopefully next year.
BOUGHT and The Greater Good, and people can check out your website. And thank you for joining us today. I'm glad you were here.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time on Being the Change.